This is a maple and epoxy serving tray, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to make one for yourself. What I love about this build is how simple the board can turn into something people immediately notice. And if you stick around, I'll reveal the 3 tips I've learned that can make a huge difference in how your epoxy project turns out. Let's build this thing. For this build, I'm using a reusable silicone mold from Crafted Elements. One of the biggest reasons I like these molds is how easy they are to demold. They're reusable, they last for multiple projects, and they save me from building custom molds every time I want to pour epoxy. For this project, I'm using deep pour epoxy from Ultra Clear Epoxy. My friends over at Ultra Clear Epoxy sent this out for the project, and it's a great fit for builds like this. This formula can be poured up to 2 inches in a single pour, making it perfect for this build. Now let's figure out exactly how much epoxy we'll need. One of the biggest concerns people have when working with epoxy is figuring out how much to mix. Nobody wants to come up short during a pour, but nobody wants to waste money by mixing more what they need either. So let me show you 2 easy methods to get an accurate estimate. First, I measured 5 different widths across the river section, averaged those measurements, and then multiplied that by the length and depth of the pour. That gave me a pretty accurate estimate of the cubic inches I'll need to fill. The second method is even simpler. Fill the void with rice, then pour that rice into a measuring container. The volume of the rice closely matches the volume of epoxy you'll need. For both methods, I like to add about 10% extra for waste and mixing losses. I won't spend a lot of time covering the measuring and mixing process in this video because I've already created a dedicated video that covers everything in detail. If you want a deeper dive in that process, check out the video in the link in the description below. One of the biggest lessons I've learned with epoxy is to plan your entire pour before ever start mixing. Make sure your mold is ready, your pigments are prepared, and every tool you'll need is within reach. Once the epoxy is mixed, the clock starts ticking. Not all epoxy is mixed the same. Different brands and even different products from the same manufacturer can require completely different mixing ratios. Some are mixed 1-to-1, others are 2-to-1, and some entirely different measurements. Before you mix anything, take a minute to read all the instructions on the bottle and confirm the correct ratio. It's a simple step, but getting it wrong can lead to epoxy that stays soft, doesn't cure properly, or worse, forces you to start the entire project over. Trust me, this is one of the mistakes you only want to make once. Once the epoxy is fully mixed and no longer cloudy, I like to transfer it to a second mixing container. This extra step helps prevent any unmixed resin or hardener that may be clinging to the sides of the original cup from finding its way in the project. It only takes a few seconds and it adds an extra layer of insurance before the pour. For color, I'm using a mica powder from Black Diamond Pigments. Mica powder is a great way to add vibrant color and depth to epoxy while still creating those rich metallic effects that make epoxy projects stand out. I'll gradually add the pigment and continue mixing until the color is completely distributed throughout the epoxy. With the pigment fully mixed in, I'll use a torch to remove any standing bubbles trapped in the epoxy. Next, I clamp the maple in place. Once the epoxy is added, the wood naturally wants to float, so securing everything now helps avoid surprises later. Watching the epoxy bring a project to life never gets old. After the pour, I use the heat gun to help release trapped air bubbles. You'll be surprised how many tiny bubbles rise to the surface during these first few minutes. About 4 hours later, the epoxy had started to thicken, which was the perfect time to add a little movement on the design. By gently swirling the mica powder, I can create unique patterns throughout the river. No 2 pours ever look exactly the same. After letting the epoxy fully cure, it was finally time for one of my favorite parts of the process, removing it from the mold. This is always the first chance to see how the swirl pattern actually turned out. Next, I used a planer to flatten both faces and bring the entire board to uniform thickness. I want to take a moment to thank you all for the support. As I'm recording this, we've reached 2,000 subscribers. Whether you've been here since the beginning or just found the channel today, I truly appreciate you being here. Next, I cleaned up both long edges at the table saw to establish straight reference surfaces. With a couple of straight edges established, I used a table saw sled to square up the tray and dial in the final dimensions. If you found this video helpful so far, consider giving it a like and joining the community with a subscribe. To soften the edges, I used a round over bit while leaving a small detail that adds a little extra character to the finished tray. Don't skip grits when you're sanding. When you're this close to the finish line, it's tempting to rush this step, but good sanding is often what separates a professional-looking project from an amateur one. Since I planed this tray flat, I started at 80 grit, moved to 120 grit, and finished at 220. Each grit removes the scratches left by the previous one, so skipping grits can leave marks that show up once the finish is applied. I also like to wipe the surface down between grits to remove dust and make sure I'm getting a clean surface before moving on. For this serving tray, I'm using Rubio Monocoat. It's one of my favorite finishes because it's easy to apply, extremely forgiving, and a little goes a long way. This finish uses a 3-to-1 mix ratio, so I measured out both components and mixed them thoroughly. This is the moment where all that sanding starts to pay off. After spreading the finish, I used a Scotch-Brite pad to work it evenly into the wood and epoxy. Then I flipped the tray over and repeated the process on the opposite side. Finally, I wiped away the excess finish, leaving behind a durable finish that lets the wood and epoxy speak for themselves. The last step was installing the handles. After laying out the locations, I used a center punch and drilled pilot holes. Using a Forstner bit, I recessed the hardware in the back of the board. I'll drill through the front and widen the holes to the size of the bolts. A few bolts later and the tray was complete.